So yes, we have Kavyal Sedanni here with us. She's an expert on anxiety and depression. So Kavyal, we were talking about some teenage issues, about suicide, and you were mentioning about social media and how there is a difference between the real and the ideal world. So what do you think, people who are reporting or, who are feeling suicidal, how should their family and friends handle it? Because most often friends do talk about suicide in school or feel low in, they talk about feeling low in school, but they don't know what to do when their friend is telling them that.
Look, unfortunately, there are two parts to this. There is one part of children naturally actually feeling suicidal. There is another part of a lot of kids now using the same tactic for attention seeking.
Right.
Okay. Because if things don't go my way, then parents are so damn scared to even say, nahi, aisa nahi kar sakte hain, because naturally the paranoia is, mere bacche ne kuch kar liya to.
Right.
Okay. So first of all, what the kids need to understand here is that if you are using this for attention seeking, this is so drastic that it could sabotage your life. I mean, if my child today tells me that I'm feeling suicidal, my antenna as a parent will go up for the rest of my life.
Yes.
So my child is actually asking for freedom, but now I will be helicoptering कि मेरा बच्चा ठीक है ना, मेरा बच्चा ठीक है, मेरा बच्चा ठीक है. तो अगर आपको पार्टी में भी जाना है तो मैं शायद आपको नहीं जाने दूंगी.
And you become very obsessive.
Exactly. So if you are using this tool as attention seeking, it is the worst thing that you can do for yourself and to your parents and to your friends. If you are genuinely feeling very, very low, very, very out, please seek help and seek attention, because a lot of times this could be driven by a chemical imbalance in our brains.
Right.
A lot of times it could be driven because of the bad food that we are eating, or the lack of exercise that we are doing, or simply a horrible body image that we have. Sometimes we could be feeling very, very lonely, and we feel like we have no one to talk to because everyone's going to judge us. That genuine need or want to connect is actually so beautifully available outside. Okay, if you can build even one great relationship where you can trust them and they can trust you, this problem can be solved. Another major reason why people are getting suicidal is the ridiculous use of weed, smoke, alcohol, cocaine, and vaping. Okay, now scientifically what we have to understand is that when we are using all of this, and I'm not shying away from saying that the teenagers are really using all of this. You see 14 and 15-year-olds at hookah bars. You see 14-year-olds vaping and they think it is extremely cool. But when you are taking all of these substances in there, the inhibition factor in your brain, that factor which will tell you that, hey, pagal hai kya kar raha hai, that goes off.
Right.
The fears which are there go off. So you can find yourself standing at the edge of a boat and not feeling fearful about jumping. Or finding yourself standing on the balcony of the 20th floor of your friend's house and not feeling fear कि मैं मर गया तो क्या होगा?
And here, Kavyal, I want to stop you here because I think it's a very, very important point that you brought up on addiction, because it's drastically increased through the pandemic. We've also done a study through the NGO where we saw rates of addiction going up to a large degree because, like you said, people were isolated, lonely, teenagers could not meet their friends, and we've seen exactly the case that you said where the inhibition is lost, and we've lost some youngsters to that in our own very city of Mumbai. So, Kavyal, when we talk about, restarting back from the pandemic, I feel a lot of teenagers have expressed that, they've lost their friends, they've lost their groups, they've sort of grown in the last, 24 months, and suddenly they are finding it very difficult to identify with the same groups. Yeah.
Yes, which is true. Every single teenager I know today who is going now from online school to offline school is having anxiety.
Yeah.
Is paranoid about, what, auntie, I don't even like those friends anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think I can have a conversation with them anymore. There was 2 years ago, I couldn't imagine my life without them. Today, I don't know what I want to talk about. Maybe I've changed. But if you're feeling that way, guess what? You're not alone, because every single person around you is feeling the same way.
Right.
But this could either be a crisis or this could be an opportunity. You have to look at it like this, that in the situation that you are in, what would you really like your friends to do for you? Or what would you like somebody else? How would you like them to comfort you? Take the same damn thing and comfort somebody else. Okay, so if I would like somebody to take the initial first step and come and talk to me and say, hey, are you feeling different after the pandemic? Do you find it hard to connect with your friends? And I'd say, yes, do you feel that same way also? And if somebody says, yes, I do too, that means I don't feel alone.
Right.
Okay, now you can make new friendships just by being vulnerable enough and just by being honest enough and open enough about how you are feeling. You do not have to put a filter in your real life. You can be honest because everyone around you is feeling vulnerable.
But I think you're also, like you said, you have to choose and take the courage to acknowledge your own feelings to yourself, and then probably share that with the other.
Dekho, na, till 3-4 years ago, not 3-4 years ago, till very recently, actually, it was very cool to be a certain image.
Yes.
Okay. That's why the Instagram filters, the Snapchat filters worked extremely well. But now that it is becoming a disease, now that children are getting anxious because of it, the tide is turning. It is actually now becoming more cool to say, I'm off Instagram or I'm off Snapchat and hey, I'm the real me. Look at the acne that I have. Look at my hair. Look at how much weight I've put on, because it gives the other people the courage to also be their real self. So if I could tell one thing to the teenagers, I'd be like, be that hero. Be that hero who can be real in a fake world, because then you will give the other people the courage to be real as well. Eventually, we can only survive in the real world.
But Kavyal, here I want to point out that, we also, teenagers, go through a phase of seeking this social validation constantly. You want to please your parents, you want to please your teachers, and finally you want to please your friends and sort of fit in. And this entire pressure of fitting in is what sort of makes you do certain things that you don't desire to do.
Yes, which is absolutely true. Children cannot focus on academics or anything else unless they feel they are socially acceptable.
Right.
Okay? But honestly, to be socially acceptable in the real world takes very little. Okay, it takes you a genuine connection. It takes you the courage to say, I'm responsible for the kind of friends that I have, and I'm responsible for the kind of image that I want to put out. And if there are certain friends who bully me, certain friends who have the wrong habits, I don't want to be there. If they are feeling like they don't know how to do that because they've never been that way, then come for a session of counseling, understand, see your own strengths, value yourself, and you will have the courage to do it. But seeking validation in a social media zone, frankly, it's an endless race, because if you have 300 followers, you want 600. If you have 600, you want 1200. And where do you stop?
Right.
And it causes a lot of anxiety.
So have you sort of seen a gender bias, whatever cases that we are getting in India? Do you notice any sort of gender bias with in suicide rates for teenagers? Is it more prevalent in the females versus the male? Have you seen, because in my study, I don't think we looked at the gender bias, but that's something very interesting to notice, that it is more the females who are coming out and talking and sharing their feelings, vis-a-vis, I'm sure the boys are also feeling all claustrophobic and caged up.
Look, they cannot be, I can't put this up as the scientific numbers are such, because it's very dynamic. There are, it's constantly changing. But with the girls, because of our social conditioning, they are a lot more wired into what will happen to my parents.
Right.
Okay. What will happen to them? What will happen to this? So they will end up going in a depression. They will end up talking to somebody about it, because naturally a woman, the strengths are in communication.
Right.
Okay. When the boy is conditioned to, you take care of you, boss. You are one island in yourself. You don't need to look at how mama's feeling, how papa's feeling. And they are fighters. Okay. So either they will come out in the form of aggression or fight it out or whatever, but the boys, very often, because they can't talk or they feel that it's not cool for them to be vulnerable, then they will want to escape the situation. So I see more boys actually taking the plunge in committing suicide rather than the girls. I will see the girls suffer silently. So in a girl situation, a suicide will happen if it's a very, very, very drastic case. Okay, like she really could not find any solution to her problem. In a boy's situation, I find it rather as an act of impulse.
Right.
कि कुछ नहीं हुआ, मैंने झगड़ा कर लिया, I got very offended, chuck it, I'm just going for the kill.
And
But
recently, I don't know if you, sorry, recently we saw, a case of an online gaming challenge that led to a suicide of a very young boy, which was reported in the media. So like you said, boys have different coping and different challenges that they seek out.
yes, absolutely. You know, what was the name of that game? The shark or something like that. I forget. That was so horrible that the game or the people involved would corner the blue whale, I think it was called.
Yeah, the blue whale. But this one, I think, was another one which was last week, because there are many new games which have come, which are creating. Yeah.
All the time. Lots of stuff coming up all the time. It's very, very, very unfortunate to see how children are cornered. Also, a lot of children on the internet are groomed.
Yeah.
Okay, this is what we call, like to make them victims of sexual abuse or to make them victims of kidnapping or extortion or whatever. It is extremely unfortunate. That's why I keep reiterating the fact that what you are seeing online, the games that you are playing online, it's a fake world. अगर आप रोजाना की जिंदगी में जा रहे हो तो यू कैन पॉइंट आउट कि ये क्रिमिनल है, ये पुलिस है, इसको जेल में बंद किया है, ये पॉकेट मार है. On the internet you can never know.
Right.
So person is having what impact on you and for the rest of your life is a very, very dangerous aspect. So it doesn't spare girls or boys. वहां पे ये नहीं है कि who is more affected, both are.
So coming from there, there are certain biological factors that you and me know through our education that can predispose somebody to a depression, anxiety, and a suicide. But very often, Kavyal, I would see a parents having, a deep denial of the fact that something is wrong with their child. The pressures that are put on children, especially now post the pandemic, coming back to reality, giving offline exams have become an immense pressure in itself.
That's right.
So, what are the biological factors that, we want to highlight here?
See, nothing about biological factors here, but in any crisis situation, any person has literally 3 options that the subconscious will take you to. One is fight, one is flight. Okay, fighting is dealing with the situation, taking care of the situation, handling it, tackling it. Flight is running away from the situation. मेरे को denial में जाना है, मेरे को देखना ही नहीं है. I'll run away from it. And when I can't fight it, when I can't run away from it, then the third modern mechanism that we have is freeze. Now, freeze is the modern day depression. Okay. This depression is actually a very, very comfortable state of mind where you go very numb. You can cry endlessly for days. You will lose all of your motivation. You don't like the things that you used to like earlier. You can't communicate the way you used to communicate earlier. Hours of sleeping, overeating, undereating, all of those dynamics that we already know. But we have to, as a parent, first of all, you got to stop being in denial. Because parents का क्या होता है that the minute you feel like my child is off or a counselor tells you that your child seems to be in a depression, they go in denial because now it's not about the child anymore. Now it's like, oh my God, am I a bad parent?
Yes.
Was I so busy that I couldn't make out that my child is going through something and I don't know what the hell to do with it? So they themselves go in denial. Okay. But if your child is showing any of these symptoms, you got to put your own ego behind, your own fears behind, and you got to teach the child, koi nahi, we are not running away from this situation. We are not freezing. We are fighting the situation. Let's face it. Always train your children to face the situation. A lot of times, facing the situation is not as bad, but the idea that, oh my God, if I face the situation, ye ho sakta, ye ho gaya to, wo ho gaya to, it is the ideas that kill you. When you actually face it.
Yep.
when you actually face it, it may just be a little small cat that you're making out to be a very roaring lion. But face it, because this is not going to be the last situation in your life. You're going to have many, many, many situations like this.
Right. So coming back to, which you pointed out, substance abuse is one of the factors that can cause mood disorders and drastic, behavioral consequences. So how much do you see substance abuse in India specifically being linked to the rates of suicide? So I'm going to talk about our population because I think it is very important for us to see, hear, and acknowledge that we are following the Westerners in this.
A lot of the role of bringing yourself to suicide is because of all of our addictions. Okay. Now, we all say, oh my God, I'm fearful of this. I'm fearful of this. Fear is it's a beautiful tool that your brain has created to keep you alive.
Right.
Okay. Now, our brains are not designed to keep us happy. Our brains are designed to keep us alive. That is why the fear is there कि भैया अगर तुम्हारे सामने फायर है, तुमको बहुत अट्रैक्टिव लग गया और तुम्हारे पास फियर नहीं है, तो तुम चले जाओगे, मर जाओगे. Okay. It is because of the drugs, the alcohol, the weed, the vaping, that the fear just goes off. That this guy just doesn't think that how am I going to suffer? How is my family going to suffer? And in that moment, when I feel like everything is becoming too much, what's the point of my life? My girlfriend just ditched me. My boyfriend is cheating on another. I didn't even get the right marks. Let me just finish this and I'm gone. There is a study which has said that out of all the people who committed suicide or attempted suicide and the ones who survived, each one of those people was questioned. And in the last 3 seconds before they actually hit the floor or they met the accident, they didn't want to end their life.
Right.
They wanted it back. Okay. But only the people who survived it can talk about it. The people who are gone will never be able to speak about it. But to keep those filters intact, we got to make a distance between the amount of addictions that we are going through, because it may not be a reason for your depression. The teenager will tell me, Kavyal aunty, what are you even saying? I love it. I'm in such a state of pleasure and I'm in such a state of joy. But it puts off some switch in your head. And sometimes you could just do it as a challenge. So yes, it is very unfortunate. Too much of the drugs seen happening and not advisable.
Kavyal, here I also want to bring about a very unspoken topic about teenage pregnancy. At least for me, I see a lot of teenagers, talking in our private sessions about abortion, which their parents have no clue about. We've seen this again, like in the Western countries, abortion rates among teenagers is very high. And I think that's, although it's illegal in India, we do hear of cases of this. So at what level do we think parents need to create a communication channel with their children? Where are we going wrong as a society today?
The parents themselves are extremely awkward of bringing across a conversation like this. Okay, again, the parents are in denial when I say that your child is 14 or 15, they're in a relationship. What? It's too early. Focus on your studies. एक ही line आती है parents को. तुम्हारा 10th grade है. Focus on your studies. Focus on your studies. Focus on your studies. Now, children at this age are in a space of defiance. They're trying to find their own personality. They're trying to break away from the mold that their parents have created for them. So they're going to act out in various ways where they want to know, who the hell am I?
Right.
What do I like? Okay. So the adventure kida is at full swing. And because the brain is not completely developed, the prefrontal cortex is not working very well. Hamara risk evaluation thoda weak hai. So every teenager believes like, oh, I can't get pregnant with this. It can't happen to me. That happens to other people. Okay, till it happens to you. So the parents, by the time the girl starts getting her period or the boy starts sensing an erection in the night under his bedsheet or starts getting uncomfortable, or there is a slight intrigue or a conversation, watch their faces. When you're watching a series where there is a kissing scene coming up, watch their faces. If they are getting uncomfortable about it, it is the time to talk about it. Okay, and bring it up, talk to them extremely boringly, biologically, of why sex is needed, at what age. it's going to work well for you, what age is not going to work for you, what are the risks. If this happens, what do you do? What kind of people you go out with, what kind of people you don't go out with. If you don't know how to have this conversation with yourself, there are extremely good sexuality experts that we have. There is Anju Kesh, there is Niyati Shah, there's so many people who do this work.
Right.
Please send them to those workshops, or make them sit with a counselor and let somebody else do the job for you. But so important that our children know what could be the harm. Children feel safe on knowing it.
Yes.
So they may feel awkward in front of you and they may say, what, mama, what are you even talking about? But their brain wants that information.
Right.
Okay, so by all means, give it to them without judgment.
That's I think that's very important, because I still feel the parent here needs to be comfortable in sort of bringing up these conversations, because sometimes you've seen in generations of family do not talk about sex in their households, and I think that's the difficulty that the teenager feels. Talking about self-harm, Kavyal, we have seen again, like through the pandemic, there are a lot of self-harm or cutting behavior. Just for the audience, self-harm is where they don't attempt, it's not a classical suicide, but it is pain caused to some part of their body. Have you been noticing that too? Yeah.
Yes. In fact, children have started wearing the cuts on their wrists like badges of honor, like, war scars that people so proudly carry. We have to understand something about what self-harm does. Now, every time there is an injury to the body, the mind automatically goes, pa, 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 pa. It's like a red alert, where the brain already knows that you're going to be in pain.
Right.
And to reduce that pain, there is a little bit of a serotonin or a dopamine kick. Bhai, tu shant ho ja. Okay, so there is actually a pleasure attached to any sort of injury, because the brain wants you to calm down. Now, when our children are not able to deal with the actual emotional pain that they are feeling, or the mental pain that they are feeling, to distract themselves from that pain, they induce another pain.
Yep.
Which actually makes them feel good. It's like a little kick in your head. Okay? So it's not like tumko dard nahi hota kya? They are okay to bear the pain because they know ke control mein kar rahe hain. They can't explain it, but there is a feel good factor involved with it. Plus, it almost feels like, on the hindsight, that it's a topic of conversation when people see it, that, hey, what's really going into you? What are you doing this for? That in a way helps them to communicate their actual feelings. And I've earlier, I wouldn't believe it, but I did realize with the amount of teenagers that I've worked with, that as a topic of conversation, when somebody sees those scars on their wrists, they now feel like, koi to mere ko pooch raha hai, that how are you feeling?
Right.
Okay, so there are benefits to that, but as kids, or as the person who's going through it, you never know when that little bit becomes too much and it could be fatal.
Yeah, but I just want to, help parents understand that, if there is self-harm and if there is an emotional pain, I think it needs to be addressed. So just don't dismiss those marks. It's very important to probably take them to a therapist or talk about their pain, like Kavyal has just pointed out, because it can be fatal.
Yes, true, absolutely.
So in terms of, you've heard of suicide contingent, how, first I would like you to explain to the audience what the word is, and then probably give us some tips on how we can prevent it.
Okay, so basically suicide contingent is something that, as a child or as an adult, if you have been in an environment where 1-2 people have committed suicide, it's almost like a conditioning in your head that isne to kiya na. So if I can't deal with the situation, I'm going to do this.
Right.
Okay, like it's a training in your head that this is your escape route to go out. So it naturally makes them more vulnerable. Okay. For a lot of children, it's never like, what are you mad? Commit suicide? No, not happening. Okay. So they don't have that virus yet. But if you are exposed to it, that possibility that I could also end my life is existing. And those children or children from the families where there has been a suicide should be first attended to. Whether you see signs of depression or you don't see signs of depression, you say signs of anxiety, you don't see signs of anxiety, they have to be spoken to. That is how we can prevent it. Open communication, telling them that, look, I'm not going to judge you. You can fail 2,000 times. You can get up 2001 times, but we are going to try. We're not going to run away from the situation. Talking solves a lot of issues.
But I think, Kavyal, here, when there is a case of suicide, there is a lot of silence and numbness. You want to sort of, just avoid these conversations. And I think it's high time that we start not shaming suicide or the family who's undergone the trauma.
So the silence and numbness is a sign that we need to speak. Okay,
Yeah.
because if we were all able to speak, there would be no need for suicide. Why does a child go silent or why does a child go numb? Is because they don't feel safe to talk about it. They may feel like either वो लोग मेरे को जज करेंगे या मेरी फ्रीडम ले लेंगे या मेरे फ्रेंड्स को बोलेंगे तू गलत कंपनी में है, मेरी स्कूल चेंज कर देंगे, या तो उनका रिएक्शन इतना बड़ा हो जाएगा कि प्रॉब्लम से ज्यादा बड़ा उनका रिएक्शन हो जाएगा. It will become a double problem. Okay, so at this point in time, instead of being a filmy parent and feeling like हम लोगों से क्या कमी हो गई, where have I been a bad mother, please cut the drama. Don't make it up about yourself. Make it about the child. The child is saying something. We need to hear it without judgment, without telling them, but we gave you the best education, but we gave you the best schools, we gave you the best khana, we gave you 2 ayahs, whatever it is that you may have given the child. The child is possibly going through something emotionally, mentally, chemically, physically, which the child is not able to point out. But if you can, bring them to the right source, so you can bring them to maybe a counselor, jo ekdam non-judgment se sunta hai. When the child even vomits everything out, that is 50% of the calmness setting in.
Yeah.
So the situations are not as difficult as we make them, Shraddha. We just have to be willing that I am not a perfect parent. Nobody is. And my child may need help. I joke about this very often with my clients. When my clients say that, oh, your children must be the most sorted, right? They will have no problems. And I tell them, I said, no, I'm also looking for the perfect counselor for my children when they want to talk to me.
Right. So, Kavyal, here, just lastly, since we have less time left on us, what are some of the thought processes that these children go through? They have certain classical patterns and cognitions that we see as therapists. I want to highlight it to the parents and to the audience that this is very important for them to notice.
Okay. One is fear of failure. Okay, that I'm not good enough, I can't do this, I will disappoint my parents. Okay. Second is fear of judgment. What will they think about me? And like I said, social acceptability for the children is more important than anything else. Okay. So their need to fit in, their need to feel good in their own body, in their own mind, in their own self-esteem. Okay. Third is feeling like I'm not accepted and they're going to bully me or they're going to leave me out, the fear of isolation or the fear of being left alone.
And being unloved, I think, right? So not being, yeah.
Yes. So if I am left alone, which automatically means that I'm not loved.
Yes.
Okay. So if I am not loved, it's in the child's head. It's almost like I will die. If they leave me alone, I will die. So I might as well die because I can't deal with this feeling unloved every single day. Comparisons from parents, from family, from friends are a killer. Okay. So we got to be extremely sensitive about the fact that if our children are feeling seen, if they are feeling significant, if they are feeling safe, if they are feeling successful, if they are feeling all of these, then the child is in great hands. But हम लोग क्या करते हैं that we only focus on how successful is our child becoming. Kitna marks aata hai. Okay. Chuck the marks. Leave it on the side. If you can ask one question to your child every single day, it should be, baby, are you feeling good? Not, baby, what did you do at school today? Okay. So, and let them speak.
And like you said, that was a very interesting question that parents can ask. Some of the tips that our teenagers can practice on a daily basis to, sort of maintain that motivation and the upliftment for themselves, because I think they are going through a somewhat lost phase, going back to school after years together. And, I feel really bad that they had a, loss of a significant developmental stage of their life.
Yeah. One amazing thing that you can do is maintain a gratitude journal. Okay, we have to train our brain into looking for 5 amazing things that happened today. Like 5 amazing things. Oh, I woke up happy and fresh. Oh, I had the perfect temperature of the hot water when I was taking a shower. I had pizza for lunch. I went out for Starbucks with my friends, or I could study a whole chapter, or I posted a great reel on Instagram which got liked. Whatever it is, 5 good things till the end of the day should be in a certain book every single day. This way, we are training our brain to look for the good, look for the good, look for the good. Okay. Otherwise, the brain goes in a negativity bias. Uska aadat hai. Like I said, the brain is not trained to make us happy. It's trained to keep us alive. Okay. So it'll always look for the threats everywhere. Okay. Within the threats, we have to look for what's good if you want to feel good about yourself. Okay. Second, you have to stop the comparisons. Like, I will be good enough when my waist becomes 24. I will be good enough when I get 5,000 followers on Instagram. No, you are perfectly good today and you can get better every single day. You are amazing today and you can get better every single day. Okay. The third thing is to keep telling yourself that there is nothing like failure. My last mistake is my best teacher. In fact, when we fail, it is the best way to learn. If you get 5 sums right over and over and over again, there's no guarantee you will not make that mistake in the paper. But you fail once and you will remember it for life. So we have to reframe this. Failure क्या होता है? कुछ नहीं होता. वो ऐसी गलती होती है कि हमें जिंदगी भर याद रहती है, तो हम लोग दोबारा नहीं दोहराते उसको. Okay, so reframing failure and saying everything's an experience, everything is an experience, there's always a second chance to make it right. If they can stick by these 3 things, I think their life will become a lot easier.
I'm going to add one very important thing to that is self-compassion. I think, as like you said, with social media, we become very, very judgmental. And I think before people are judging us, we are judging ourselves, with our filters and our selfies. So I think this aspect of taking care of ourselves, accepting ourselves is very, very important.
Yes, I completely with you on that, Shraddha.
So thank you so much, Kavyal, for being with us. We will be putting up her details, where her clinic is, her Instagram profile, her website, all on our link. Thank you so much for being with us and empowering our parents, our audience on this very, very essential topic. Again, once more, if there is a child who you see is indulging in self-harm or talking about any sort of fear or threats which they perceive or they are unable to handle, please contact a therapist. It is absolutely normal. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shraddha.